It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege and the honor to interview the former high school athletic director and basketball coach, Tod Morgan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Brandon. Thanks for having me on your show. This is great.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started coaching in high school basketball?
Yeah, well, growing up as a kid, I played all the sports like a lot of kids do. And in high school, I was fortunate enough to play most all the sports. And so my coaches were some of my favorite teachers. And so I always kind of gravitated towards sports and playing. And then, had a chance to play as a JV player at Carolina, and that was an opportunity to be around Coach Dean Smith and Coach Roy Williams and Coach Phil Ford and Bill Guthridge, and so I learned a lot about basketball at a whole different level, a very high level, and that got me very excited and interested in becoming a basketball coach. So that's kind of how my path began, and I became an education major at UNC Chapel Hill, graduated with my bachelor's in education, health and physical education, and then got started, in this is now going over 25 years in this business, all in North Carolina in public education. And a lot of that time was spent as a teacher and a coach. So, and a lot of that was being a basketball coach, obviously. So, but yeah, it started as a love for sports as being a kid, and then just kind of continued on as a career.
What was it like playing UNC junior varsity basketball and putting on that Carolina blue jersey?
Yeah, certainly quite an honor. And, anytime you're a part of the Tar Heels of course, Coach Dean Smith was the coach then as the varsity coach. And then Coach Roy Williams was his assistant coach, and he was the head JV coach before he went to Kansas. And then Coach Randy Will was an assistant coach with varsity, and he was the head JV coach. And so, but you were always around the players. You were around the varsity guys. JVs usually practice before or after the varsity. So we were in the Smith Center doing our practice and either getting finished and the varsity guys were coming in, or we were waiting for them to finish so that we could start. And our JV games were always before the varsity games most of the time. So we would again have the chance to play and not very many people in the stands. And then of course the varsity came in and the place would be packed. But we had a couple of times where our game went overtime, and all of a sudden there were already some fans in the stands that were there for the varsity game. And we had a lot more fans for some of those games, but most time for JV games, it's just family and friends, and not as many fans as obviously you see on TV when the varsity team plays.
What was that like, obviously being coached under Roy Williams?
Yeah, well, certainly he was, and I've been fortunate and blessed to work Carolina basketball camp since 1988. So over 30 years of working Carolina basketball camp. We used to have 3 weeks of camp, and then it became 2 weeks of camp, and I always would work 3 or I would work 2, and then probably most recently since I became a principal, I just work 1 week of camp. Usually that's about what I can fit into my schedule. And the last couple summers with COVID, we haven't had camp, so that's been a little bit unique. But always loved being at Carolina and around the program. And Coach Williams was just as fiery as a head JV coach as he is a head varsity coach. He wanted to win, and he pushed you hard. And we ran a lot, and just as he was a Hall of Fame coach with 3 national championships and over 900 wins on varsity level. He was a great coach on the JVs. He pushed us hard in practice and wanted the best for us.
Of course, coming out of college, what was it like getting your first coaching job at West Carteret?
Yeah, and in fact, it's interesting. I actually had a chance at West Carteret to be an assistant coach, and I started out as an in-school suspension coordinator. So I kind of feel like now I've been in a lot of different seats in this business, but had a chance to to be an assistant coach and head JV coach, and that had an opportunity for me to learn and kind of figure out how to coach. And then from there, I was able to get head coaching jobs and kind of move up and coach from 1A to 2A to 3A to 4A and different levels throughout the state. But it kind of all started with getting that opportunity to be an assistant coach and a JV coach. And so I think sometimes that's what we have to do is pay our dues. And like I was an ISS coordinator, and then I became a health and PE teacher, and then a coach, and then went from assistant coach to being a head coach. And then it was one of those things. I got to become an athletic director and work my way up, and I was assistant principal and now principal. And so you kind of work. I think it's a natural progression in our business. When you're in it for a long time, you just kind of work your way up the different phases of your career. So.
How was it like going from East Carteret to Greene Central?
Yeah, well, I was at West Carteret, and then Greene Central. Link Lyles had been at Greene Central, and he was a great coach there, and took the New Hanover job, and the Greene Central job opened. And I remember talking to Coach Ralph Holloway, and he thought that was a great opportunity. And so, I got a chance to be with Russell Brand and BJ Bass, and of course, Rabbit Fulgham and Lewis Godwin and all the good folks, Steve Bryant, all the good folks over at Greene Central at that time. And learned a lot about coaching, had a chance to be a head varsity boys coach. And we didn't have quite the same talent, I don't think. Link Lyles had a kid named Robert Lee and a lot of other good talented players. And I think they kind of graduated out. But we had a good group of kids who worked hard. And I think we overachieved, and we made the playoffs both years, and made some runs in our conference tournament, surprised some people. So I always look back and think I grew a lot as a coach during that time, and was fortunate to have those group of young men to coach at Greene Central.
What was that feeling like when you became the head coach for the first time in your career?
Yeah, it's a big difference between those 6 inches between being an assistant coach and having all the suggestions and all the ideas, and then being the head coach and all those suggestions and ideas. You've got to make the final call and make the decision. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't work out, then you got to answer for that. So, as a coach, I always said the players got the wins. Like Coach Smith would say, Coach Williams would say the players get credit for the wins, and the coach takes the blame for the losses. And so I always felt the same way. But definitely a big difference between being that assistant coach and just making suggestions all the time. I think we should do this. I think we should do that, to being the head coach and hearing all those suggestions from the assistant coaches, and then having to actually figure out, well, this is what we're going to do. And sometimes it's what the assistant coaches suggest, and sometimes it wasn't. But, I think that's a big honor to be a head coach. And certainly I always felt like everywhere I coached, you had a chance to mold young men and young ladies and pour into them and make them better people. And at the end of the day, that was really what it was all about. Our teams had a lot of success. We won a lot of games and championships and trophies and all those kind of things. But at the end of the day, a lot of times I really think back now and I look and see, I think we did a pretty good job, because I see how successful some of these young people are that are now married and kids, and some of them are coaching, some of them are teachers, some of them are lawyers and doctors and doing a lot of great things. So I think hopefully we made a little bit of an impact on them in a positive way and poured into them. And now it's paying off, 20, 25 years later. So.
What was it like coming to New Bern as the varsity head coach and obviously going to this 4A state championship?
Yeah, varsity level, certainly at New Bern High, at 4A level is a whole different, every level. I was in at 1A and 2A and 3A and 4A, and I've been fortunate. We had great kids and great assistant coaches. And so at every step we made the playoffs. And I said it gets harder. 4A is harder because everybody has talent and competition gets tougher. But there was some good competition at every level, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. There's always good competition. There's always somebody really good. New Bern was a neat situation because football was always so good. And you knew that if you could get those football athletes to play basketball, that you could then probably be pretty competitive in basketball as well. So that was really what we were able to do, is kind of accomplish getting a blend of some kids who focused on basketball, and then some kids who were multi-sport athletes that played baseball and soccer, and also played some basketball, and then also getting those football athletes out there that could turn the heat up on defense a little bit and get the running game going. And that was always fun. So I enjoyed my time being a Bear at New Bern High.
What was that like, obviously, winning that 4A championship?
Yeah, I think the big thing with New Bern back then with football, Independence had been the school that could kind of always knock them out. And, seeing them finally get over that hump and win that state championship was pretty impressive to finally get that monkey off our back, so to speak.
What was it like coming to Goldsboro for the first time to go to Goldsboro High School?
Yeah, Goldsboro High. Wow, I love that place, and what a great tradition of basketball. And I love that gym. The Norvell T. Lee gym is one of my favorite gyms. Just something about it. It's just a special place, and they love basketball there. And so, as a basketball coach, you're in the right place when the fans turn out and they're excited and they're cheering for the kids. And the kids, you have tryouts, and there's a lot of interest, a lot of kids trying out. That was probably one of the hardest places. Goldsboro and Chapel Hill, we have so many kids try out. And, as a basketball coach, you hate to cut any kids who love basketball like you love it. But we just couldn't keep, all the kids because you would have 40 and 50 kids trying out for the team, and we only have 12 or 15 on the team. So, that was probably the hardest part, was having to tell some kids that we try out again next year, or maybe be a manager, or, we always talked to each one of them individually because I didn't like the idea of posting a list. But it was still hard to give them bad news because you knew those kids, they loved it just like you did. But yeah, Goldsboro High is a very special place when it comes to basketball for sure.
What were some of your accomplishments at Goldsboro High?
Well, Goldsboro, we had, I was fortunate. We had a lot of good players. And again, I say that, and good assistant coaches. And, it was one of those things. Terry Walls, who unfortunately passed away, and Bo Compton, and Claude Waters, and Todd Seymour, who's our basketball coach here now at Jones Senior. They were our staff. We had a great staff, and we had kids like Kelvonte McDuffie and Tavon Murchison and Dimitri Irby and Doshmore Sims and Eric Sinclair. And when you've got some talent, Lynn Compton Jr. and so, or the fourth, I think he is actually. But you've got some talent that makes it a lot easier, and certainly we have a lot of success, and we did extremely well in our conference that year. Made a run in our conference tournament, made a run in the Lenore Community College Christmas tournament. And then we made a deep run in the playoffs that year. So it was a special team, a special group, and a championship team.
What was that like, taking them to the 2A state championship playoffs in 2007?
Yeah, we had a great run. We played really well. I think down the stretch of conference play, I felt like down the last couple weeks of conference play, the conference tournament, and then the state playoff run, we were playing probably as well as most teams. I felt like 2A in the East at least, and we ran into a great Graham team in the sectional finals, and had a chance to go to the regional, and they were well coached. They were better than us that night, but I thought that leading up to that, we were playing as well as anybody, and had some great wins and scored. That group could score. I felt like that was one thing about them. They could score the ball. We'd score 100 points on Tuesday night and try and score 108 points on Friday night. And I said, man, who does that? Who scores, that many points? But we had a way of scoring the ball. We had a lot of bucket getters. So, I probably wanted them to play defense a little bit more in the half court, but of course our press would turn people over and we'd score layups, and then we'd keep the press on. So I think we played hard enough on defense in the full court that maybe made up for some of the defense we didn't always play on the half court as much, but we did draw a lot of charges too. So and our kids didn't do that before I got there. So I felt like that was a credit, hopefully, to them buying into what the coach was trying to tell them to do. So.
Of course, during your time at Goldsboro, did you ever play schools like Aycock, Rosewood?
We did, the Goldsboro, obviously you play in a conference, and then we were in a 2A conference back then with like Northland North, Farmville Central, Greene Central, Tarboro, and schools like that. But then we would play non-conference games with Rosewood and CB Aycock and Eastern Wayne, Southern Wayne, all the Wayne County schools. So that was always neat because you had all those rivalries and all that tradition. And of course, those schools were always talented as well and well coached. And then they always wanted to beat Goldsboro, so you had to play your best because you knew you were going to get everybody's A game.
How did it feel to become the athletic director for the first time in your career at Chapel Hill High School?
Yeah, I felt like, Chapel Hill High School is such a tremendous tradition of, as a place to be as a basketball coach and as an athletic director, over 100-year history. And, when I was there at that time, I think we had initially, when I first got there, we ran a total of all the banners. The only banners they hang in the gym are state championship banners for all the different sports teams. And I think we had 48 state championship banners at the time. And 6 years later, when I left, I think the number was at 71. Now, it wasn't all basketball. It was soccer and basketball and girls basketball, volleyball. They had them from the past in football and baseball, lacrosse, cross country. Really good in all sports. And I think now the number has grown even because I left Chapel Hill, in 2013, something 12, 13. So I think that number is even probably near 100 now, team state championship. So it's just an amazing tradition of excellence, and academics are certainly very high, and then athletics are certainly very high as well. So to be the athletic director there, I felt always that was an honor, certainly, and a privilege to do that and to be a part of that program at that high level. We won the Wells Fargo, or back then it was called the Wachovia Cup, and a couple years, and that was always an honor to be, I guess, basically recognized as the top overall athletic program. So really, really proud of that time at Chapel Hill.
How was it like, obviously, balancing being the athletic director and the head coach for basketball during your time at Chapel Hill?
Yeah, and that's one of those things that's interesting now. I've been the athletic director and basketball coach at 4 different high schools now. And so in all those roles, and especially in Chapel Hill, it is that balance of when I need to be at my games and covering things as athletic director and all the duties and responsibilities there. And then also my team that I'm coaching and our practices and our off-season workouts. And so trying to find a balance. I think a big thing in Chapel Hill was our staff was so good. We had Layson Perkins, Vic England, Gus Fraley, Justin Freeman, Kelly Barley. We had such a great staff, Rashard Lee, and they would all pitch in. And so whereas normally I would probably be at all the preseason workouts and all the off-season conditioning and getting shots up and skill development sessions, I found that I had to delegate a lot of that stuff to those guys during the fall and the spring because I would need to be at fall and spring athletic events as the athletic director. So, and then when there was a day when I didn't have an athletic event I had to be at, then I would jump in, obviously, with the basketball guys so they didn't forget who I was and make sure they knew I was still there and still part of the program. But and then during the summer, we always did a lot as a basketball program, and I was always very involved there. So I think the guys on the basketball team knew I was still there and very committed, but they also knew my job as AD took me away sometimes during the spring and the fall when I would be busy with my athletic director duties. So it's just trying to find that balance and delegating where you could with great assistant coaches who are willing to step up. So.
What was it like taking Chapel Hill to the playoffs from 2009 to 2013?
Yeah, Chapel Hill is a special place, and you get it rolling there. We won the conference 4 years in a row, and I mean, we were number 1 ranked team in the state 3 years in a row. We were 25-0 one year, undefeated all the way through the season. But you have talented players. We had 14 kids going to play some level of college basketball during that 6-year run. 2 kids, Denzel Ingram and Anthony Van Hook, both played Division I level. Denzel Ingram at UNC Wilmington and Anthony Van Hook at UNC Charlotte. 2 other kids actually walked on at Carolina and then ended up playing on the varsity team at Carolina, James Maynor and Denzel Robinson. And another young man, Josh Morrison, had a stellar career, 1,000-point scorer at North Carolina Westland. So, you just get it going, and there's all this talent that's there. And once you start winning kind of breeds winning, and success breeds success. So I think it was really special because you start making those runs deep in the playoffs every year, and the kids get excited, the fans get excited. You're making the run to the Final Four, and you're loading people up on buses and taking them down to Fayetteville for the Final Four game, and it's just really an exciting atmosphere. Something that very blessed, and special, and very blessed to be a part of it. Fortunate that I was able to be a part of the Chapel Hill boys that went to the Final Four in 2011, and then in 2019, our East Carteret girls went to the Final Four. So it's kind of neat to have been the Final Four with a boys team and a girls team. I guess that's probably a unique thing that not too many people have been able to say they could do that, So, but I just was fortunate to be around a lot of good kids and great coaches. So really is a credit to them. I tell them all the time, I just drove the bus, So, but we had a lot of fun, and it's a lot of special, fond memories for sure.
That's pretty amazing that you took both teams. What was it like going to ACOG for the first time in 2013 to become the men's basketball coach and weightlifting coach?
Yeah, I was really excited about it. I knew that we had made in the weight room. I knew they had some improvements in there, and I was excited to see the equipment and what we could do with the kids in there. And then as the basketball coach, obviously the first thing I noticed when I walked in the gym was this tall guy named Mike Williams looking at me, and I said, "Well, we got a chance to be pretty good because we've got a guy here that can do some things." And he was a pretty special player. Denzel Ingram and Anthony Van Hook at Chapel Hill had both been in the East-West All-Star game and North Carolina, South Carolina All-Star game. And then, of course, Mike Williams ended up being the third guy in 3 years for me to be able to say that we were able to do that with. And he did that at CBA Cock, and over 1,000-point score. All those guys were 1,000-point scores. I think I've had 12,000-point scores in my career now. And that's a credit, again, to great players who are willing to put in extra work to get better at their craft. But Mike Williams was a great talent. 1,000-point scorer, led us, in rebounding and scoring, went to the East-West All-Star game, North Carolina, South Carolina All-Star game, went on to play at Pitt Community College, and had some opportunities to go to some bigger places. But, that was a special team because I felt like they bought in as a team, and we had Mike Williams, a great player, but then we had some other guys who were willing to play their role well. And so, and then once somebody figures out you've got a good player, they're going to try to take that good player away. So then Mike was real good about finding other guys and helping other guys get better. And so that was a special team. And I enjoyed my time there at CBA Cock as a basketball coach.
What were some of your accomplishments on the basketball side at CBA?
Yeah, well, I think that academically we did well. Our kids' GPA was high, and so I thought that was good. We got recognized by the NCHSAA as a scholar team, and for our kids' academic performance. And I thought that was, well, when you're competitive on the basketball court and you do well in the classroom, then I think that's a sign of really a great team. I was like the teams at Chapel Hill High School, always proud because their team GPA was always really high, and then our record was always good. So, that's kind of things I look at, and I thought we did the same things at ACOC. We kind of were building that same kind of culture there, like we had at Chapel Hill, and that's what I like to see. Academic success and athletic success, and that to me says, you're really truly a champion.
Of course, what was it like balancing becoming the weightlifting coach and obviously the basketball coach?
Yeah, I think the big thing there is with the weightlifting, you're wanting to make sure that all the kids for the different sports are getting what they need. And I know, every sport we would do bigger, faster, stronger, which we felt like was improving every student's athleticism, which didn't matter what sport they played, male or female, that would help them. But then we also tried to look and see which guys were baseball players, which girls were softball players, which guys played football, which guys were wrestlers, and who, which girls played tennis, and all the different sports, and if they played something they were specifically trying to get better at, girls basketball, boys basketball. We also tried to incorporate some of their workout into drills and things that would help them in their sport, so baseball players, it may be more band work. It may be more working on their shoulders and their arms, and their legs, because a lot of pitching is your legs, and you're obviously want to be strong in your rotator cuff area. So we just tried to fine tune it that way to give everybody the best chance to be successful in their sport, whatever that sport was. And then as basketball coach, obviously I would take the hat off of weight training coach, trying to help all the teams, and then get in the gym and try to work with my guys on what we could do to get better at putting the ball in the basket, and their fundamental skills of ball handling and passing and defense. So.
During your time at ACOG, what was it like playing teams like Eastern Wayne, Rosewood, and going back to Goldsboro?
Yeah, those were always exciting battles. I mean, you talk about tradition and the rivalries there, and fans are going to be, the gyms are going to be packed. It's going to be loud. As a coach, you can't hear yourself in the huddle sometimes, and but that was always exciting. I know we it was interesting because when I was at CBA, we played Goldsboro, and I had coached at Goldsboro before. So that was kind of an interesting thing to be coaching against a team you had coached before. Mike Williams had a huge night the first time we played at our place, and I think he had 35, and we were able to win. CBA beat Goldsboro, and that was a big deal. I know our folks were excited about that. And of course, then the next week we had to go back to Goldsboro, and I knew it would be tough because it's really a tough place to play over there. And I think Goldsboro put it on us pretty good that night. So those rivalries were always heated and so fun to be a part of as a coach. Eastern Wayne, I think we beat them both times that year, but both times it kind of came down to the buzzer. And Southern Wayne, same thing. I think we lost both times to them, but both times it came down to the buzzer. And I think we were able to get Rosewood at both times. But Rosewood, man, they're so well coached. And over at their place, it was tough. We kind of pulled one out. I think Mike Williams hit some free throws late, if I remember correctly, for us to win. But those Wayne County rivalries, it's going to be, you throw the records out the window when they play. It's going to be a packed house, and it's going to be exciting and fun. And as a coach, that's the environment you want to be in.
What was it like leaving ACOG to go to East Carteret to become the head men's basketball coach, the women's basketball coach, and first time being a golf coach?
Yeah, it was tough when I first left CBA ACOG. It was hard to leave ACOG. Certainly, having a chance to go to East Carteret and be the AD and coach all the different sports was neat. Coaching girls and boys basketball at the same time was a unique challenge in itself. And that was just took some time to figure out how we were going to make practices work, because I had to go back-to-back practices, and then we would do back-to-back games, and how we made that work, because most time I'd be in doing pregame talk with one team during the other team's game, and so I had to figure out a way to have my assistants do the pregame talk. We sometimes do the pregame talk for the boys during the JV game, and then I could coach the girls, and then the assistants may go over a few last-minute details with them, and then we'd run out and play. But coaching all the different sports, cross country, boys and girls golf, it was interesting. I've coached high school basketball 22 years and was blessed to have a lot of good players and a lot of good assistant coaches and a lot of good teams. And because of that, a lot of times when your teams have success, the coach gets accolades. So I've been fortunate to be named basketball coach of the year 10 different times. And then as a golf coach, which I was new to, and I'd played golf, but coaching golf and playing golf is different things. But I just tried to take golf and break it down into fundamental drills, and like I would with basketball. And that worked pretty well, because we had a couple we had a boys golf team that went to regionals. We had a girls golf team that went to regionals, and we had some individual players that went on to states, and one girl who won 4-time conference championships. So she was pretty good. And she was good in spite of her coach, but we had a lot of fun with it. And I was actually 2-time coach of the year in golf, and I was kind of surprised, but I guess that just shows you can teach an old dog new tricks. You can get somebody, if they know how to coach, they probably can coach most sports. So.
Of course, what was it like becoming the athletic director at East Carteret in that same time?
Yeah, athletic director there was also special, just like Chapel Hill, and I was athletic director at Jones Senior at one time too, and so I think that those are special opportunities, especially when you're still coaching and athletic director, because you get to kind of what the coaches are going through, because you're going through it too. And at the same time, as an athletic director, you have to have big picture, and you're looking at all the teams and all the programs, the budget, and how we're doing the uniform rotation, and our booster club, and how we raise money to support all the programs. And the schedules and what works best with facilities and how we upkeep everything and maintenance. And I think a lot of that is a big picture systems approach where you kind of really need to focus on what's best for everybody, not just what's best for my team. And that's kind of, it helps in being a principal because you kind of see the same thing, what's best for all the teachers and all the students, all the classrooms, not just what's best for one particular teacher or class or, so I think it carries over, but it was great at East Carteret because the fans there, they really, it's like CBA Cockton, it's a community school and they really are passionate about their Mariners and they get behind it. And you can always expect a packed house and rivalries within Carteret County are just like they are in Wayne County. So when West Carteret and the Patriots come over and East Carteret's playing, it's a heated rivalry and a lot of fun to be a part of, and did enjoy my time at East Carteret, certainly.
Of course, what were some of your fond memories during your high school coaching time?
Well, it's just like I said, you look back and I miss it. Certainly. I think once a coach, always a coach. 22 years, I got to be a part of it. 331 wins and a whole bunch of different awards and championships and things like that. I'm just so proud of our kids. The biggest thing is, that I'm proud of is 100% of our kids that I coach graduated. And so I'm really proud of that. I think that says a lot about the fact that we emphasize, the academic piece and doing it the right way. And that those kids were good kids and they went on to graduate and then do other things. And like I said, a lot of them now are parents and married and productive citizens and own their own businesses, or they're doctors or lawyers or teachers or coaches or firemen, a lot of different professions, all walks of life. And really proud of that, just the impact we've made on a lot of different kids across the state during that time.
Of course, looking back at your high school coaching career, what are some of your great memories in it, and what are some of the things that has helped you as a principal where you are now?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brandon. I think the fond memories, is just the relationships that you build with the kids and the coaches and and I even sometimes I miss the relationships and interactions I'd have with the officials and the sports media and other folks that are around the game that, as when you're coaching and you're in it, that you're talking to coaches all the time, you're trading ideas, you're talking scouting reports, you're going to scout other teams and seeing people on the road um, and then you're competing, obviously, when you're trying to prepare your team in practice and get them ready for this other team, and then you're competing, and then when the game's over, you're still good friends, and so I miss those relationships and those friendships with the kids I coach, their families, but all the folks that are around the game, whether it's the other team, the other coaches in our profession, because it does become kind of a small fraternity of folks, and we all love our game and we compete like crazy when we're playing against each other, but we really do have a lot of respect for each other. Officials the same way, sports media. So I just kind of miss all those parts of being around the game, and that's the fond memories that I cherish. The things that I say it carries over into being a principal is, again, as AD, you had to have that big picture mindset. I think the academic piece always driving the bus, and it always did as a coach. It always did as a teacher. It always did as an assistant principal and AD. It does certainly as a principal. I think relationship piece, because again, this is a relationship business. So you're building relationships with your faculty and staff, your coaches, your students and their families, certainly folks in the community. I think a big part of it is promoting you're always as a coach tried to promote and share good news. When our teams did something good, I tried to share it. When our social media is a good platform for that, and same thing if our players did something good, if there was an award. And as an AD, I tried to do that for all of our teams and our coaches. As kids got awards or coaches or our teams had success, we tried to share all that good news. If Booster Club provided something for us, we tried to recognize them and thank them. And so then as a principal, it's the same thing. All our faculty and staff and our clubs and our community sponsors and folks that help us and our board and all those kind of things. So I think you kind of take a lot of those same way of doing business as a teacher and a coach and an athletic director. It just carries over into your servant leadership as a principal.
What advice would you give those people looking to become high school basketball coaches or even high school coaches and also high school athletic directors?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, it's one of those things that you need to find great mentors to be around. I think there are some tremendous coaches who've been in our business now for a while. And if I'm a young coach, I'm looking and seeing who those great coaches are in whatever sport it is I want to coach, and say, I want to see if I can get on as a volunteer even, or as an assistant coach with that coach, and spend some time learning from them and see how they do things, and kind of interning. And then same with an athletic director, find a good quality athletic director. There's a lot of them across our state, and see if you can intern with them, spend some time with them, job shadow with them, and get to work with them. And I think those years as an assistant coach, a head JV coach, an assistant AD, and all that time to learn and just be a sponge, read everything you can read, attend coaches clinics, podcast, listen to shows like yours where, they can pick up nuggets of wisdom, and that kind of thing, I think helps. And then you just kind of are ready for that next step when that opportunity presents itself, and they say, okay, we're ready for you to move up from assistant coach to head coach, or we're ready for you to move up from JV coach to varsity coach, or from assistant AD to AD. And you've kind of got all that experience, and you've learned from somebody who you feel like has really given you everything. Because there's a lot of the old guard that are not going to do it for too many more years, but they would certainly have a lot of knowledge to share on some young people wanting to go into this business.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
Yeah, well, I do Facebook and Twitter, and certainly once I get to ACOC, we'll be kind of probably setting up some Instagram and Twitter and Facebook pages. I've already established a Facebook page for ACOC, and I think ACOC kind of already had one established that we're going to work to maybe try to blend those two. And but yeah, social media, definitely look me up, and I'll be glad to help any way I can.
That's great. I look forward to seeing what involves in your future when you get to ACOP.
Well, thanks, Brandon. I appreciate you having me on today. Always a pleasure to see you. I look forward to seeing you over in Pikeville before too long.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Tod Morgan, for your interview, and best of luck in your future, as it was a pleasure interviewing you.
Great to see you, Brandon. We'll see you again soon, buddy.
Bye.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.